Hi everyone, so now that we've learned how to solve all the different ways to solve systems of equations, we're going to talk about some word problems. On these word problems, we're actually going to use elimination for all of them. The hardest part about this, if you feel good about elimination, the hardest part about this is setting up the equation, but I'm going to hopefully show you how to set these up so that they're a little bit easier. So let's just get started with the first example. I'm not going to write down the whole question because there's a lot of words, but I will read it, and you do have it in front of you with the examples page. It says, Paul and Pranav are selling flower bulbs at a school fundraiser. Customers can buy bags of windflower bulbs and bags of daffodil bulbs. Paul sold 7 bags of windflower bulbs and 1 bag of daffodil bulbs for a total of $86, and Pranav sold 7 bags of wildflower bulbs and 3 bags of daffodil bulbs for a total of $118. Find the cost of 1 bag of windflower bulbs and 1 bag of daffodil bulbs. So what we're going to do, the easiest way for me to do this is to name X and Y. So what I'm going to do is say that X has to be equal to the windflower bulbs. And then Y has to be equal to the daffodil bulbs. So you could do it the other way, or you could use W and D, honestly. It's easiest for me to just continue to use X and Y. And just make sure whatever you choose to use in whatever order you put them in, that you remember which one is which. I always write down which one is which just to make sure that I don't get confused. So now what we're going to do is write an equation for Paul, and then we're going to write an equation for Pranav. The way that we write these equations is what we're going to do is say how many bags of each and multiply them by either X or Y, depending on if it was bags of windflower bulbs or bags of daffodil bulbs, and then set that equal to the total amount of money that they made. So let's look at just Paul for a second. It says Paul sold 7 bags of windflower bulbs. So what that tells me is I'm going to have a 7x right here, because it's 7 times whatever the amount of money that the windflower bulbs are, and 1 bag of daffodil bulbs. So plus 1 bag of my daffodil bulbs, which are Y. And he made $86. So I'm going to set that equal to 86. Now we're going to do Pranav's equation. So Pranav sold 7 bags of windflower bulbs. So once again, we're going to have a 7x, because X stands for windflower, and 3 bags of daffodil bulbs. So instead of 1Y, we're going to say 3Y. And that is equal to $118, because he made $118. Now look at that. We have 2 equations, and it looks a lot like a system of equations that we would solve with elimination. So we are going to solve this with elimination. The easiest way to do that is by multiplying one of these equations by -1. The reason why we would multiply by -1 is because you have a 7x on both the top and the bottom equation. So if I multiply by -1, we've got a +7 and a -7, which cancel each other out. So I'm just going to multiply the bottom equation by -1, which means I can rewrite the top equation, and then the bottom equation would become -7x minus 3y equals -118. All right, now we can add them together. The +7x and the -7x would cancel each other out. Then for the y's, we have 1y minus 3y, which gives me -2y. And then on the right side of the equation, we have 86 minus 118, which gives me -32. Now I have one equation with one variable, so I'm going to solve for that variable by dividing by -2 on each side. And we end up with y, because the -2 cancel out, is equal to +16, because -32 divided by -2 is +16. What that tells me is that the daffodil bulbs are $16 each, because we decided that Y was for daffodil, so that's $16 each. Now we have to still figure out how much the windflower bulbs are worth, and to do that, what we're going to do is take one of our original equations and plug in 16 for Y. So I'm just going to take the top equation, the 7x plus 1y is equal to 86. But I can replace the y with 16, so I can say 7x plus 1 times 16 equals 86, which would give me 7x plus 16 equals 86. I'm going to subtract the 16 from each side. We would get 7x, 16s cancel out, equals 70, because 86 minus 16 is 70. Then I can divide each side by 7. We would end up with x is equal to 10, which means that the windflower bulbs are worth $10 each. And those are my 2 answers. I don't necessarily need to say that X equals and Y equals, but I do need to say that the windflowers are worth $10 each, and then the daffodils are worth $16 each. All right, let's look at another example. So this example says, the senior classes at High School A and High School B planned separate trips to NYC. The senior class at High School A rented and filled 9 vans and 3 buses with 180 students. High School B rented and filled 9 vans and 1 bus with 132 students. Every van has the same number of students in it as did the buses. Find the number of students in each van and each bus. So this time we're looking for the number of students in vans and buses. So what I'm going to do is say X has to be equal to vans, and Y has to be equal to buses. All right, so now let's write the equations. The first equation will be for High School A, and then the second equation will be for High School B. So in High School A, it says High School A rented and filled 9 vans and 3 buses. So I can say 9 for vans, which would be X, plus 3 for buses, which would be Y. And they filled it with 180 students. So the total amount of students I had was 180. That's what's on the other side of the equal sign. Then High School B rented and filled 9 vans and 1 bus. So I'm going to have 9 vans for the X and then 1 bus for the Y. And that was 132 students. All right, now we can solve this because it's a system of equations. Same way that we solved the last one. I'm just going to multiply the bottom by -1. The reason why I'm multiplying by -1 is because the 9x's will cancel out if one's positive, one's negative. So I'm just going to rewrite the top equation. And then the bottom equation becomes -9x minus 1y equals -132. Now we can add those together, and the 9x's will cancel out because positive and negative cancel out. Then we have a 3y minus 1y, which gives me 2y. And then we have 180 minus 132, which is 48. Now I have one equation with one variable, so I can solve that by dividing by 2 on each side. The 2's cancel out on the left side. I'm just left with y. And on the right side, I have 48 divided by 2, which gives me 24. Because the y is equal to 24, that tells me that the buses can fit 24 students each. All right, now we still have to figure out how many the vans can fit. So we're going to just take one of my original equations. I'm going to take the bottom one in this case. 9x plus 1y is equal to 132. And I'm going to replace the y with 24. So I get 9x plus 1 times 24 is equal to 132. I'm going to simplify by saying 9x. 1 times 24 is just 24. So I can say plus 24 is equal to 132. Now I want to solve that for x by subtracting 24 from each side, and I would get 9x, the 24's cancel out, is equal to 132 minus 24, which is 108. Then I can divide each side by 9, and I should get, the 9's cancel out, and I should get 12, which means that the vans can hold 12 students each. And those are my 2 answers. All right, let's look at the next example. So the next example says Carlos is, Carlos is selling tickets to the annual talent show. On the first day of ticket sales, he sells 7 senior citizen tickets and 9 child tickets for a total of $190. The school took in Carlos took in $150. Sorry, I misread that. But Carlos took in $150 on the second day by selling 9 senior citizen tickets and 3 child tickets. What is the price of 1 senior citizen ticket and 1 child ticket? So once again, we're going to start by labeling X and Y. This time I'm going to have X be the senior citizen ticket, and then Y be the child ticket. So the equations will be the first day and then the second day. On the first day, he sold 7 senior citizen tickets, so it's 7X, and 9 child tickets, so 9Y, for a total of $190. Then on the second day, he took in $150, so that automatically is going to be the right-hand side of my equal sign, with 9 senior citizen tickets and 3 child tickets. So 9x plus 3y. All right, so now we have our two equations. This one, we have to actually multiply by something other than the -1, but if you look at the y's, I can multiply the bottom by 3 and get them to both be 9s, but I don't want them to both be positive 9s. I want one to be positive and one to be negative, so I'm going to multiply instead of +3, I'm going to multiply by -3. So I'm going to rewrite the first equation because we're not changing that one. And then the second equation will end up being -27x minus 9y is equal to -450. All right, now we can add them together. So 7x minus 27x gives me -20x. The 9y's cancel out because one's positive, one's negative. And then I have 190 minus 450, which gives me -260. Now I have one equation with one variable, so I can solve for that variable by dividing by -20 on each side. And I would get the 20s cancel out, you get x equals 13, which means that the senior citizen tickets are worth $13 each. That's steep for a senior citizen ticket. All right, now we're going to solve for the child ticket by taking one of the original equations, and I'm just going to take the top equation and replace the x with 13, so I'd have 7 times 13 plus 9y is equal to 190. And 7 times 13 is 91, so I can write it as 91 plus 9. Y is equal to 190. I want to solve that for y by subtracting 91 first, which gives me 9y is equal to 99. Then I can divide by 9 on each side, and I end up with y is equal to 11, which means that the child ticket is $11 each. All right, last example. This example says, Jenny and Mary each improved their yards by planting daylilies and ornamental grass. They bought their supplies from the same store. Jenny spent $87 on daylilies and 12 bunches of ornamental grass. Mary spent $60 on 8 daylilies and 2 bunches of ornamental grass. What is the cost of 1 daylily and 1 ornamental grass? So I'm going to have x equals a daylily, and y is equal to the grass. Okay. So in the top equation will be for Jenny, and then the bottom equation will be for Mary. So let's start with Jenny. It says Jenny spent $87, so I know that's going to be on the right-hand side of my equation, on 9 daylilies and 12 bunches of ornamental grass. So I'm going to have 9x plus 12y. And then Mary is the second equation. So Mary spent $60, so that goes on my right side, on 8 daylilies and 2 bunches of ornamental grass. So 8 daylilies and 2 bunches of ornamental grass, which is our y. All right, we have 2 equations and 2 variables. So now we can solve. The 8 and the 9 are a little bit harder to do, so I'm going to do the 12 and the 2. What I can do is actually take the bottom equation, multiply it by 6 to get it to be 12, but I'm going to multiply it by -6 so that it's positive 12 and negative 12. So let's just rewrite the top equation. Then the bottom equation would become -48x minus 12y equals -360. All right, now we can add them together. So I have 9 minus 48x would give me -39x. The 12y's cancel out because one's positive, one's negative. And then on the right-hand side, I've got 87 minus 360, which is -273. Then we have one equation, one variable, so to solve for that variable, I'm going to divide by -39. The 39's cancel out here. I'm just left with x, and then -273 divided by -39 gives me 7, which means that the daylilies cost $7 each. All right, now we want to find the price of the grass. To find the price of the grass, I'm going to use one of my original equations. I'm going to use the bottom one this time. 8x plus 2y is equal to 60, but now I know x is 7, so I'm going to replace the x with 7 and then solve for the y. So I've got 8 times 7 right here, which is 56. Then I want to solve for y, I would subtract the 56 from each side. It cancels out over here. I'm just left with 2y. 60 minus 56 gives me 4. Then I'm going to divide each side by 2. I get y is equal to 2, which means that the grass is worth $2 each. And there we have it, how to solve systems of equations word problem.